So thank you everyone for.
Oh, I got it.
I'm sorry, Robert's rules of order.
I'm sorry.
I'll shut up.
All right, Renee. Okay, I'd like to officially start the December Borough Board meeting. If everybody could please just rise and say the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Okay, for attendance, we have everybody here, and just for the minutes, Brooke was kind enough to send everybody a copy of the minutes last week. Can I just have a motion to accept the minutes, please? Jerry first, can I have a second? Frank second, thank you. Okay, moving right along without further ado, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Sorry for jumping in before, but thank you for having us. My name is Sir St. Ledger. I'm the Senior Director at the New York City Department of Education, New York City Public Schools Office of Family and Community Engagement. I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Rosalo, and I'm the Senior Director of Governance, also within the Office of Family and Community Engagement.
Welcome.
Thank you. So today we're going to be talking about the upcoming citywide Community Education Council elections, right? And the elections will be held in April through May, a few weeks in April, May. But obviously there's a process that leads up to that, and that's exactly what we want to talk to you about. And also there's going to be some asks that we're making of all borough, all 5 boroughs. And we'll end with that so it can help us with this process. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to let my colleague Rebecca open it up, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, so you are all welcome to follow along with the presentation that we have. Also, we'll be happy to share this with you at a later date. I will go over this slightly because some of these things are kind of like dense and wordy, and maybe we want to leave some space and opportunity for some Q&A afterwards. But this, to open up, is sort of like our election timeline. So we are gearing up for our application period to open, which would be mid-January. And so there are 3 phases of the campaign. Learn, which is the phase that we're in now, where we go around, we talk to our different stakeholders about what citywide and community education councils do, what's their role in supporting the education of New York City Public Schools students. And then we have our run feature of the campaign, where we are inviting applicants to run for positions in CEC citywide. And then our vote portion of the campaign, where we invite all families that have a student in New York City Public Schools to vote for the applicants. So right now we are in the learn phase of our campaign, and then we are gearing up to open our application period in January, mid-January to mid-February. You have a child in New York City Public Schools, generally you can apply, but there are other opportunities or other caveats to that, and we have more information and other handouts and guides that you can review on your own time that discuss candidate eligibility. Afterwards, late February to April, are our candidate forms. So each district, each community school district, and each one of our citywide councils have a forum for the applicants to be able to share with the school community why they should be voted on to a community and citywide education council. And so that is generally hosted by the president's councils of each of the districts. And the president's councils is an amalgamation of a district's PA and PTAs for each of their schools, right? And so late April to May, the voting begins online, and we'll talk a little bit more about that also in the presentation. We announced the results in June 2025. We also host an orientation for all members. And then the term begins for the new term July 1st, and it's a 2-year term. Any questions on the timeline? Okay. Or maybe we can hold questions to the end and I'll just go through the presentation. So what do community education councils do? I'm gonna run through this very quickly because it's wordy and sometimes it's kind of overwhelming to read words, right? So CECs work with their superintendent to evaluate educational programs and student progress. They are advocates for those policy recommendations. They recommend improvements to school buildings. They contribute to the hiring process of both superintendents and parent coordinators, and they evaluate the superintendent on a yearly basis, right? They approve school zoning lines submitted by the superintendent as well. Next page, they organize town halls with the chancellor, so each CEC hosts a town hall with the chancellor once per term. So once in the 2-year term of a council, they will host the chancellor with the town. They will host the town hall with the chancellor, and it's an opportunity of various opportunities where individuals can connect with the chancellor and ask questions, but it's also an opportunity for the CEC, who does the job of supporting and advocating for academic and social emotional policies within schools for their district, to ask questions directly from the chancellor and their team, and to receive responses in real time. They also hold hearings on budget and other matters where the feedback is required, and so those are all public meetings that are subject to open meetings law. They also participate in joint public hearings for different topics. They provide input on school closings and co-locations, and they make recommendations to our panel for education policy, or the PEP, which is the ultimate parent representing body for New York City public schools. They host monthly public meetings for parents to learn and share concerns, and they support school communities by connecting parents with resources and connect with each school's leadership team. So the leadership team, I could go into depth, that's like another topic, but each school leadership team is comprised of staff and comprised of parents representing different bodies of parents within a school building, and CECs have to work with school leadership teams to understand the concerns of each school, right? So why are the elections important? So the 3 points here is that these CECs give parents the opportunity to make decisions that impact our child's education. Through the CECs, parents are elected to represent their communities and work on improving schools. And they play an important role in approving school zoning lines, recommending how school buildings should be used, and contributing to the hiring process for superintendents and parent coordinators. So I think that superintendents play such a linchpin role in the course of education in any community school district, and CECs have a big hand in hiring and interviewing potential candidates for CECs and making a recommendation on who would be the best fit, because they also know their school communities, right? Who elects the education council members? Is open to every New York City public school parent. You have a child in a New York City public school, you are eligible to vote. And both parents of a student, assuming that they have 2 parents, sometimes you may come from single-family households, and that's understandable, may vote in the election. Parents use their New York City Schools account, and we call it NYXA for short, to cast those ballots online. So it's very important, and we'll talk a little bit about why it's important to have a NYXA account, and how, if you have a child in the New York City public schools, how you can create one if you don't have one already, and how you can do the voting. Also, in the digital version of this presentation, there's a short video that accompanies the presentation that walks you through the process of, if I am a parent of 4 children, these are the CECs that I am eligible to either apply for and or vote for, based on where my children are placed. So New York City has 36 education councils. 32 are community education councils that represent students K through 8 across the 5 boroughs, so each district has a council. And then there's 4 citywide councils. The citywide council for high school students, CCHS, the citywide council for English language learners, which is CCELL, or CCEL we call it. Excuse me. We also have the council for special education students, or CCSE. And then last but not least, we have a council for students in D75 programs, or CCD75. And then the next 2 are sort of, the next 2 slides, I think you can peruse them on your own time, but it gives you a breakdown of the composition of each of those councils. So who composes those representative bodies in those councils? And for each one, so for the councils 1 through 32, which are the community education councils, it's pretty basic. It's 10 voting members, 2 high school students, and 2 appointees by the borough president, right? And in the citywides, which are our 4 citywides, that is a little bit more complex and it breaks down even further. So there's 13 members in CCHS, there's 11 in CCSE, there's 11 in CCEL, and there's 11 in CCD75. And then on your own time, you can take a look at the presentation and see the breakdown further of what constitutes each one of those bodies. And so now I'm gonna pass it on to Serge, and he's gonna talk about NICSA, why it's important to open that, and he's also gonna share some data with you guys and sort of our call to action. Thanks.
Thank you, Rebecca. So as Rebecca mentioned, the New York City student account, NICSA, that's the process in which all parents can vote or can find out their eligibility to run for said councils, okay? So it's very important that we have every single parent in New York City signed into NICSA, right? It encourages them to vote, number 1, and also gives them an opportunity to run for these councils if they so choose, okay? And the NICSA account also gives you access to information about transportation for your particular child, the grade for that particular child. I think even attendance is also in NICSA. So there's all this other information as well that's at parents' fingertips once they open up the NICSA account. And it's very important to have a NICSA account only because the eligibility to run and to vote is student driven. So depending on where your student is, K through 12, right? It will, number 1, determine the councils for which are eligible to run, and also the councils for which are eligible to vote, right? So we have 2 examples here. So a mother has 2 kids, and they live in District 24, but they also have a child who also receives special ed services. So that mother is eligible to run for the District 24 Council, could also run for the Citywide Special Education Council, and could also run for the Citywide High School Council because their second child is in high school. Same for voting. So if this particular parent is not running but is eligible to vote, and they can vote in CEC 24, Citywide High School, and Citywide Special Ed.
May I make a caveat or a further clarification? The parent is eligible to run for those 3 councils. That does not mean that they, in fact, will appear on the ballot for all 3 councils. They will have to make a choice. But that means that based on their children's eligibility, they can choose between CEC 24, CCSE, or CCHS. Just wanted to clarify.
So they can only sit on one.
Yes.
No, they can't be on all 3.
They can't be on all 3.
No.
No.
Okay, but they're eligible to run for either one of those, okay? And same for the other parent. One child who also lives in District 14, and the child receives English is a English language learner. So the parent is eligible to run for either C14 or the English language learners citywide council, but can vote in both. Is that correct?
Yes, they can vote for both.
Okay.
They can vote for both, they can't run for
Run for
both.
4. Okay. You can only run for 1, but you're eligible to vote for any of the councils for which your children touch. Okay. All right, now, this is the next slide, page 12. shows the statistics from the prior voting in 2023, right? In a word, let me just be quite frank, in a word, the turnout was dismal, right? Citywide, it was a little less than 3.5% of eligible parents who voted, right? Even less of those eligible parents to run was even less, right? So if we look at this particular page, so let's go to Staten Island, right?
Which is
31, right? Eligible parents to vote, well, the enrollment is 41,000.
Was 41,000 in that.
Back in 23, yes? And only 1,000, and I think it's at 58 or 68? I think it's 1,058 people voted out of 41,000.
So this is for September through June.
Of that year, of
So
that,
that was 22.
22,
To
23.
23.
Yes.
So I'm sure what happened in the schools during the pandemic.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I don't know what to do.
I'm
I mean,
sure.
and there are a lot of things, right? There are a lot of, you know, there's just also like, we use Nixa for the first time, so like open the voting and things like that. And, you know, just in general, we could also be doing a better job of building better bridges with our partners and stakeholders like we're doing today to get the word out and to have a better understanding of what the CECs do and what role we all play to ensure that all of our families are knowledgeable on the process, are encouraged to run, and are encouraged to vote as well.
And also, if you go to page 13 in percentages, you go to 21 again, 2.61% of eligible parents voted, right? Yeah, it's, but again, this is reflective, unfortunately, of the city throughout on average, and obviously, we're trying to do a lot better this time around, hence why we're reaching out to all borough presidents' offices.
Are some boroughs more involved than others?
Yes.
No, District 2 gets a gold.
District
star.
2, correct,
Yeah.
right?
But even
it's a
that
big, but think
District
about it,
2
it's the biggest district in New York City, but only 14%, right?
Yeah.
So,
So even then, it's not, like, it gets a gold star in comparison, but it's not a gold star in terms of our expectations.
right.
Yeah.
And the amount of resources and information that we're hoping to inject into
I didn't
our
know the number, I
communities.
just, it was.
Understood,
Yeah.
right, it is, but again, if you look at it proportionally,
It's
right,
Where is
yeah,
District
right?
2?
Manhattan.
Manhattan,
And what about 20?
20 is Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Yeah,
So I should clarify here with the data, so, the boroughs are color
I
coded.
think you
Right.
guys probably have some schools in 20.
So Manhattan is, go ahead.
Diagrams.
Yes, correct.
So,
So
yeah,
Manhattan is districts 1 through 6, which is a purple. Bronx is in the light blue, districts 7 through 12. Brooklyn is in the dark blue, districts 13 through 23 and 32. And Queens is in the pink, 24 to 30. And obviously Staten Island is in the light purple, 31.
and then
And
D75 is
D75,
orange.
orange. Okay. And D14 again, I'm sorry, page 14, D14. Page 14, again, breaks down the applications of students' participation versus enrollment, right? So again, you look at 2.6% versus, let's try to sort of do some inroads in that 97% of parents who did not vote, essentially, okay?
And also, may I add, the printed copy doesn't really do justice to the
Yes.
information, because there's even further information on that particular chart, where if you get the digital copy, you're able to slide down and further see how many people applied to run, which is literally fractions of a
1%.
percent across the city.
Yes.
So if there were very few people voting, there were even less people applying to be part of the community education.
And again, page 15 says it's the same story, right? Just the lack of participation in voting, and not to mention those who actually ran for the CDC posts. All right, so the next is, these materials that we have on the next page, these materials will be shared with schools, right? But we just wanted to make you aware of what will be shared with schools, so that when you visit schools, don't be surprised that you'll see this type of materials that will be distributed. So our particular ask, as it relates to all borough presidents' offices, three main things. Number one, we're asking you to support the messaging in the community for outreach, both for voter outreach and candidate turnout, right? We're trying to make that, again, less than 1% of the parents who are eligible actually wanted to ran, and 2.6% actually voted. So we want to improve on that, 2.6%. We actually want to improve on that. So we just want to make sure that you help us with the messaging for that outreach, both for voting and for running, number one. Number two, supporting of other materials throughout the CEC election process, right? As Rebecca mentioned, we are now in the learning process. Then we're going to be in the candidate outreach process, and then we're going to be in the voting process. So we're asking Borough President's offices to help with that distribution of materials as well, right? And third, there's also, we're hiring now an election consultants to help with the outreach, right? So we're going to be hiring one project manager, one outreach lead, one data analyst, and 16 to 20 coordinators to help with outreach as well throughout the city. So we're asking you to help with that as well, and I will send electronic copies of those job descriptions to you. I'll send it to Sia. Is that
Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly. And in order for you to distribute it to whomever. Now, there's some eligibility for those who can be part of this CEC election consultants, right? I guess the ideal candidates are those parents whose children have graduated out of our schools. Okay, so let me just say, parents who have kids in the system now are not eligible to be part of the outreach consulting, only because that would be a conflict of interest, right? So we just want to get parents whose children who have graduated out of New York City public schools. Could be a charter school parent or private school parent because they don't have kids in public school. And those who have ties to the community. Students, right? Undergrad students, graduate students, right?
People with organizing experience, so if there's people that have experience in community organizing, outreach, political campaigns, those are things that are very important, and that skill set is very difficult to be taught, right? Especially in such a short format for this election campaign, so having that experience is critical to ensuring a successful campaign.
And this is it's a temp position, right? It will end probably April or May, probably no later than June. And it's an hourly rate, so there are no benefits, but you get paid hourly. I think it's between $25 and $30 an hour, I
I think
think.
it's like 40 to 50.
But there you go. Okay, so I undersold and she oversold. That's excellent.
So it's somewhere in the middle.
Okay. And at the end, at the very last page is candidate eligibility, right? You can review that on your own time as well, and it's something to also share with those who are interested to run in order to encourage people to do so.
And then also on the second to last page right there is the QR code. So if you're interested in learning more, that page will be updated. That links back to our school's website and the page that specifically speaks to this year's elections campaign. So you're free to, and if you have any questions, additional questions that we're not able to get to today, then there is an email that is elections2025@schools.nyc.gov. Please feel free to share questions through there.
Okay, I have a question. For voting, is it just parents or guardians as well?
So again, that is a school determination. So if it's a guardian, if it's a caregiver, if it's someone who's been court appointed and is recognized as a child's caregiver, that is the determination made by the school. And if that person appears in that child's biographical data within the school, they're eligible to vote because they are recognized as a caregiver to that child.
Yeah, I'm a guardian to my nephew, so
Excellent.
I'm, the one that does everything and
Yes.
stuff like that, so I just was curious.
Yes.
Okay. Does any other members of the board have any questions for them? Go ahead, Jerry.
How many members are in a district or the high school? I see citywide. This, how many people can be members of the CEC? How many members in a district?
Oh, so great question. And because the way that is determined is because if you have a child in a New York City public high school, anywhere in the city, then you are eligible to both run as a candidate and vote. How many students are there right now? I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I believe there are 2 reps per borough. to serve equally, and equally represent on CCHS.
No, I wasn't clear. In other words, District 32, Staten Island,
Yes,
how many people on the council?
12, actually 14 with the student reps. So for District 31, which represents schools K through 8 generally, and I say generally because there may be a secondary school, and secondary schools tend to be schools that have a middle school and a high school combined. I don't know how many exist in Staten Island, that's a number that I can get for you later. But generally, K through 8, you're asking for how many students are this year
No,
enrolled.
how many people actually sit
No,
on the
how many
council?
people on the CEC?
It is 14,
And District 2,
same,
Same,
14.
so it's 14 in every.
For all
Yes.
districts, yeah, 1 through
That
32.
was my question.
Yes, yes,
Sorry
yes,
if I
yes.
wasn't
So it's
clear.
not like District 2 has more people, so they get more representatives on their council. So for community school districts 1 through 32, which generally represent K through 8, it will always be 14. It's enshrined in law. So it is 10 members that are voted on, parents or caregivers voted on. It is 2 student representatives, and it is 2 borough president appointees.
And how are the students chosen?
The students are chosen by your superintendent. So also another reason why CECs are important, because you interview the superintendent, and part of the superintendent evaluation is about community and family engagement. So having an effective superintendent who is selecting student reps that are actually joining the council meetings and are representing student voice during the meetings is very crucial as well.
How frequently, how frequently does the CEC meet?
Monthly. And so it needs to meet monthly by law, like I mentioned earlier, it is subject to open meetings law. Some councils across the city will have separate calendar and business meetings, and others will have calendar and business meetings on the same night. So like they'll open the calendar meeting, they'll close the calendar meeting, they'll open the business meeting, they'll close the business meeting on the same night. So for the most part, I'll say once a month, but some councils will meet at least twice a month. And that is also exclusionary of special meetings. If a council has pending business that they didn't get to finish, and they need to set up another date for another meeting, that's a special meeting, so at least once a month by law.
So my question was for the District 75, do they have a own separate representative? Or
So, great question. CEC D75 has its own council, but there are also seats in the community education councils designated for a D75 parent. So there's representation of D75 parents across multiple levels of the CECs. They have their own council, plus there is 1 seat allocated per district, 1 through 32, for a D75 parent or guardian.
So how many represent 14? How many, like you said, the 31 have 14. How many do the D75?
So for District 31, it's 1 representative for the Staten Island Council 31.
But for the citywide, D75.
For D75, it's 11.
For the whole city, for the city?
Yes, for the citywide council, it's 11. So if you look at page 9, there's 9 parents that are voted on, and then there's 2 public advocate appointees. So for the citywide councils, there is a public advocate appointee. For the community education councils, meaning districts 1 through 32, there are borough president appointees.
I have another meeting to get to, but if you guys send over the stuff, we'll have it shared on our socials, so we'll try to get the word out.
Also, please follow us on social media, both at New York City Schools and Face at New York City Schools.
Thank you. Have a
Sure,
good day.
one more question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where does District 32, District 2, where did the CEC meet?
So again, that is the choice of the CEC to make during their annual meeting, which is generally the first meeting of the year, which is July, because their year starts July 1st, right? And so, councils generally will make a determination about either having their meetings in one location, or they can choose to rotate across the schools in their district, which is what a lot of councils do. So they'll connect with the principals and say, I would like the April meeting to be here at your school at PS 123, for example. So it really is dependent on the council, and that's a choice that they get to make. But it's also dependent on what their bylaws say as well.
Are the students in the VP appointment, are they also 2-year?
No. So for the students, they are by law for right now, and again, you can advocate for something different, but right now, by law, it is a high school senior. So it's 1 year. But again, if you advocate in the spaces that you advocate to change the law, that can be changed for, high school juniors or high school sophomores. But right now, by law, it's a high school senior.
I see over the years, there's been some issues with CECs and conflicts and so on. What's the procedure for removing a member of the CEC?
So for removing a member of the CEC, that really needs to be enshrined in the council's bylaws. That process starts there first because there are procedures that are within the bylaws for a council to vote off a member. Say if they're not coming to a meeting, if they're not complying with their code of conduct, there is a way that a council can make a vote to remove members of the council because they're not following the bylaws.
Does the Department of Education have the authority to remove a CEC member if they feel what's being done or proposed or whatever action is taken is inappropriate?
Ultimately, that decision lies with the chancellor, yes. But that process starts with the CEC itself, with its own body.
I worked for the Department of Education for 40 years, so
You've thrown off your share of people that you're trying to tell us?
that's why I have my share of questions.
Any other members have any questions?
I asked everybody. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for coming, it was very
Having
informative.
worked in Borough Hall for a number of years, I know a lot about the CEC and every member we had. We know a lot.
I think we can leave this copy with you all
Okay,
as
that would be
well, so you just have keep the copies, make extras,
Okay.
and then we'll be happy to share at a later date the digital version.
Okay, great. Okay. Can we move along, please? Okay, correspondence, we did not have any correspondence.
Thank you, folks.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us, appreciate it.
Does anybody have any old business to bring up? Okay, does anybody have any new business to bring up? Okay, so, for new business, as of now, so first, the January meeting is not going to be the first Wednesday of the month because it's New Year's Day, so it's a holiday. So it's gonna be the following Wednesday, the 8th.
Let's get it over, you say.
Yeah.
So,
So,
oh, no, what's going on anyway?
so it's going to be the 8th, and we will be having the MTA coming for that, so, as well as parks, yes. So, yes, parks with tree planting, we'll be coming to discuss tree planting as well. So, it is going to be an in-person meeting, and we will see you then. So, I'd like to just entertain a motion to adjourn, please. Jerry first, can I have a second, please? Elena second. Thank you, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Marie.